We have dedicated all our energy. Our house is situated right by the forest, and sometimes when I am alone, I feel a 0 to 4,141 seconds, though the trees are whispering to each other, discussing something secret and ancient. But as I recently realized, the real secrets, not hidden in the forest. 0 to 4,949 seconds, but much closer among those we consider to be our loved ones. Michael arrived. 0 to 5,454 seconds. Exibly though, he had informed us of his visit. We were accustomed to his rare visits. He is a person engrossed in his work, employed in another state, but 1:20:21 minute. 2 seconds always finds to visit us that evening. I greeted him at the door feeling a slight uni that washer to explain he had always been a reserved 1 to 101 minute. 10 seconds calm person. But at that moment, I sensed something new in his gaze. Something that made me freeze for a moment after dinner. We sat in the living room. James 1 to 181 minute. 18 seconds was talking about work. The children had already gone to bed and the fire in the fireplace was a witness to our conversations. I tried not to look at a minute, d seconds Michael, but I felt his presence with every cell of my body. His gaze seemed like an invisible thread pulling me, and despite the absurdity of this thought, I 341 minute, 34 seconds schooled and shake the feeling that some invisible game was unfolding between us. 1 to 381 minute, 38 seconds. I tried to focus on James' words beat every time I lifted my eyes. I encountered Michael's gaze. There was something strange, incomprehensible. 1 to 471 minute, 47 seconds. It simultaneously magnetic about it. It wasn't just curiosity. It was something more, something that made me ponder what lay behind his reserved snow leaf. Night 1 to 551 minute, 55 seconds was deepening, outside and the shadows in the room were growing longer. I could feel the atmosphere changing, feeling with attention. I couldn't explain that to 42 minutes, for second sevening was different from others, but I couldn't yet understand exactly how when the conversations dwindled and James suggested we all retire to our rooms. I 2 to 122 minutes, 12 seconds suddenly felt a strange sense of disappointment. It was absurd, but I caught myself wanting to stay, to continue feeling the strange attraction that had filled the room. But of course, 2 to 222 minutes. 22 seconds. I couldn't allow myself that. I silently got up and followed my husband, leaving Michael alone. With his two, the night was long. I tossed and turned in bed, 2 to 302 minutes, 30 seconds trying to fall asleep. But me thoughts kept returning to Michael. His gaze, his calmness, none of it left Mim. I could hear his voice in my head, a voice I 2 to 382 minutes, 38 seconds somehow couldn't forget. I tried to convince myself that it was all just imagination, that I was worked up from fatigue and stress, but it didn't help. 2 to 462 minutes. 46 seconds inside me something was stirring, something I was afraid to name aloud. The next morning, I tried to abnormally. James and I had breakfast, discussed 2 to 542 minutes, 54 seconds plans for the day. But I felt that Michael was watching me, as if trying to decipher my thoughts. It felt like a game where no one had spoken the aloud. 3:23 minutes, 2 seconds at both participants knew it was underway. When James left for work and the children went to school, I was left alone with Michael. The house was quiet. 3 to 103 minutes, 10 seconds. Suddenly the wind outside swaying fay trees. 3 to 123 minutes, 12 seconds creating a sense of coziness and tranquility. I tried to focus on the household chores, but my thoughts kept drifting back to him. I found myself 3 to 203 minutes, 20 seconds listening for his footsteps, the sound she made. And at some point I realized I was waiting for our encounter. He entered the kitchen while I was washing. 3 to 283 minutes, 28 seconds dishes. His presence was so overwhelming that I felt a pang of nervousness in my chest. I didn't dare turned around, but I knew he was. 3 to 363 minutes, 36 seconds standing nearby, and this closeness made my heart race. Emily, his voice came unexpectedly, and I flinched. He was as calm as always. But there was a hidden 3 to 443 minutes, 44 seconds note in his tone that made me catch my breath. I turned around and met his gaze. He was closer than I had expected, and I felt a chill run down my spine. 3 to 533 minutes, 53 seconds. His eyes were full of mystery, as if he knew something I didn't understand. We stared at each other in silence. And in that minute, I realized that something 404 minutes more than just a connection between a father-in-law and a daughter-in-law had developed between us. I wanted to say something, but the words stuck in my p minutes, y seconds throat. We stood so close that I could hear his breathing, and that sensation enveloped me completely. Inside me, a storm was brewing. I understood that for 174 minutes, 17 seconds something was happening that shouldn't be, but I couldn't stop every glance. For 214 minutes, 21 seconds every gesture from him drew me in, and I knew it wasn't just attraction. It was something else that was kindling slowly like a fire, smoldering gradually. 304 minutes, 30 seconds Michael turned away first, as if giving me a chance to collect my thoughts. But I knew that this moment would linger in my memory for a long time. I continued for 374 minutes, 37 seconds with me tasks. But every moment of that day was permeated by his presence. For 424 minutes, 42 second kiss gazes, his voice. It was like a premonition of a storm that had yet to start but had already captured all my attention. That day passed, leaving me pay minutes, seconds with the feeling that something in my life had changed. I realized that what was happening was dangerous, but I couldn't resist it. Everything seemed so for 594 minutes, 59 seconds mundane, and inside me, an elusive force was growing gradually taking over me, entirely all day. I tried to find an X-plan for my feelings. Cleaning, PC minutes, seconds cooking, household chores, all of it was distract me. But every time I was alone, my thoughts returned to Michael. 145 minutes, 14 seconds I was agitated, but I didn't understand why it felt as though an invisible net was forming around me, tightening its grip with each passing day. One evening, 235 minutes, 23 seconds game, and James returned from work. I tried to act as usual. We had dinner together, discussing every day. Mitters, 295 minutes. 29 seconds James talked about some work issues and I tried to listen but my Gaza kept falling on. Michael, who also seemed to sense the hidden tension. Between 385 minutes, 38 seconds, Yasha's calmness and silence became something mysterious and intriguing as if he were waiting for me to make thief's move after dinner. James 455 minutes, 45 seconds suggested, going for a walk, but feeling tired and overwhelmed I declined. He shrugged, kissed me on the forehead and left, leaving me alone. With Michael? At 545 minutes, 54 seconds was a strange moment when the air in the room became heavy-like. Before a storm, I didn't know what to say and felt a slight shiver overcoming Neil. 6:26 minutes. 2 seconds Michael broke the silence, his voice. 6:46 minutes. 4 seconds calm but with an undertone of insistence that made me flinch. You've changed somehow. Is everything all right? The simple question made me tense up. 126 minutes. 12 seconds couldn't admit to him what I was feeling, as I didn't fully understand it myself. 166 minutes. 16 seconds but his words, his concern for my state were unexpected and were miserable. Yes, 216 minutes. 21 seconds everything is fine, I replied, trying to appear as calm as possible. I'm just a bit tired. Michael didn't say anything. 276 minutes. 27 seconds Booth's gaze lingered on me longer than usual. In his eyes, I saw questions to which I couldn't find answers. We fell back into silence, but the silence, 366 minutes, 36 seconds didn't feel awkward. Rather, it was filled with hidden tension, as if we were both waiting for something, but hesitating to make the first move. At 426 minutes, 42 seconds on point, it became unbearable for me to be in the same room with him. I felt my heart start to race and my thoughts became tangled. I get up from the sofa 516 minutes, 51 seconds straying not to look at Michael and headed towards the door. I'm going to get some fresh air. I say, not looking back. He didn't replying. I went outside feeling 596 minutes, 59 seconds. Night air enveloped at me with its coolness. The forest around our house stood quiet and calm with only a gentle breeze rustling the leaves. I took a picey minutes, seconds deep breath trying to calm my racing heart and slowly walked along the path leading deeper into the forest. I needed to think to understand what was 157 minutes, 15 seconds happening to me. This man, my husband's father, a man who had always seemed cold and distant. Why was I now feeling something towards him that I couldn't explain? These thoughts tormented me. 257 minutes, 25 seconds but they brought no clarity. I walked further into the forest, trying to assert out my thoughts, The path led me to a small pond, whose existence I had 7 to 337 minutes, 33 seconds almost forgotten. The water was dark and still reflecting the night sky with its few stars. I sat down on a bench by the water, listening to the wind, playing 7 to 417 minutes, 41 seconds with the branches of the trees. In this solitude, I finally managed to calm down. I closed my eyes and allowed myself to forget about Michael James and 7 to 497 minutes, 49 seconds all my worries for a moment. But the calm was short-lived. At some point, I heard footsteps behind me and tensed. 7 to 557 minutes, 55 seconds immediately, opening my eyes, I saw a figure approaching. It was Michael. He came closer and sat down next to me on bench, without saying a word. His 8 to 38 minutes, 3 seconds presence again made me nervous, but at the same time I felt something new igniting within me, a spark that I couldn't extinguish. We sat in silence 8 to 118 minutes, 11 seconds side by side. The silence around us was complete, but in that silence I felt an invisible urge to leave, and a fear of what might happen if I stayed. Michael slowly 8 to 288 minutes, 28 seconds turned his head and looked at me in his eyes. I saw that then I felt myself attraction, passion, that he was hiding but had thumb too strong to ignore. He 8 to 378 minutes, 37 seconds didn't say a word, but that look spoke more than any words could. I couldn't look away, couldn't leave, we were like two magnets drawn to each other, despite 8 to 458 minutes. 45 seconds sobs to calls. I felt my breathing quicken and I was afraid he would hear how fast my heart was beating at that moment. I felt frightened that I could 8 to 538 minutes? 8:53 seconds no longer control myself, that the attraction to this man had become too strong. I knew that if I stayed here any longer, I wouldn't be able to resist. 9:19 minutes, 1 second anymore. But Michael, sensing my anxiety, broke the connection first. He turned his gaze and looked at the dark surface. Pisces minutes, Y seconds off the eye, felt the tension between us began to dissipate, but along with it came disappointment. I wanted him to 9 to 149 minutes, 14 seconds make the first move for the spark. We both felt twignite, but he might have understood that it was too dangerous. 9 to 209 minutes, 20 seconds. It's very peaceful here, he said, his voice calm and even again as if nothing had happened. Yes, and nodded, trying to 9 to 289 minutes, 28 seconds regain control. It's a good place to think. He looked at me again. And I realized that this moment was just the beginning of something more. Despite 9 to 359 minutes, 35 seconds everything I felt, despite all the danger, I knew that this evening was only the first spark in the flame that would inevitably ignite. We stayed there 9 to 449 minutes, 44 seconds for a while longer, until the night air began to chill us. Finally, I got up and Michael did the same. We walked back to the house. In silence were our old lives. 9 to 529 minutes, 52 seconds awaited us. But I knew that this night had changed everything. When we returned, James was already asleep. I climbed into bed, feeling the cold night 10 to 0010 minutes air from the forest still tickling my skin. I closed my eyes, but sleep did not come. I lay there listening to James's quiet breathing and thought, why? Minutes, 8 seconds, about how everything would soon change. This night had marked the beginning of something new, something dangerous, but I could not avoid it. My life would 10 to 1610 minutes, 16 seconds never be the salmon. I could no longer stop what it began. The next morning, I woke up with the feeling that the night in the forest was not a dream, but a 10 to 2410 minutes, 24 seconds reality that was gradually taking over my life. Everything around me seemed strangely familiar, but also changed. I couldn't get rid of thoughts about 10 to 3210 minutes, 32 seconds Michael, about how we had sat by the pond, surrounded by silence and hidden passion. His image haunted me even as I tried to focus on ordinary tasks. James had left for work early in the morning. 10 to 4310 minutes. It took care of the cleaning, but everything around seemed painted in new, more vivid colors in every step. Michael 10 to 5410 minutes, 10:54 seconds took around house in every glance he cast. I felt something I had never noticed before. It was like an electric charge in the air that couldn't be. A PA minutes, a second signaled all day. A tree to avoid encountering him. I felt that if we were alone again, what had happened by the pond would repeat itself, and I wouldn't. 11 to 1111 minutes, 11 seconds be able to resist any longer. Yet I still heard his footsteps in the neighboring rooms, and that feeling contended to envelop me like a suffocating fog as EAN approached with a PA minutes, a p-seconds sun, all already setting. I heard his voice calling me from the living room. It was calm, as if nothing had happened. 11 to 2611 minutes. 11:26 seconds, but I felt it was merely avocade, concealing something much deeper. I entered the room trying to appear confident, but inside I was trembling. 11 to 3411 minutes. 34 seconds. Michael stood by the window, looking out at the golden evening sky. I noticed him slightly turn his head towards me. 11 to 4011 minutes. 40 seconds, catching the sound of my approaching steps. "Emily," he said quietly, as if testing my reaction to the sound of his voice. "Yes," I responded, trying to 11 to 4811 minutes. 48 seconds, keep my voice steady, though I knew it was becoming increasingly difficult. He didn't answer right away, and I moved closer, unable to resist the unknown 11 to 5711 minutes. 57 seconds attraction. The room was filled with silence, and only the faint wind outside reminded you that the world beyond our home continued to move. I found myself p minutes. 6 seconds next to him, closer than I had intended, and felt the air between us growing dense and